All right, so on the way to the Museum of Western Film History, we passed a sign for a visitor center, so we thought we would stop in here, check it out, and it is the visitor center for the Eastern Sierras. So,
see what they got.
The
Eastern Sierra Interagency Visitor Center.
Yeah, so
we love our visitor centers.
Yeah, and we typically recommend, start a trip with a stop at the visitor center. And one of the things that stood out to me about this visitor center is so many visitor centers, when you go to them, they seem to be specific to the location that you're in, right? So if you go to Sequoia National Park, the visitor center is about usually the general area where you're staying. We'll talk about the national park. Sometimes you go to a visitor center that's located in a city, and they'll talk to you about the city. This one had such a broad geography that it covered. It basically touched on a lot of the Eastern Sierra, which I think, overall, we're talking about hundreds of square miles that you can learn about in this visitor center. So it's a nice stop. You're going to get a lot of information, a lot of ideas about things that you can see, if not on the trip that you're doing at that point in time, even ideas for future trips. So as an example, there's an area that's at least an hour north of Lone Pine. It didn't fit into our itinerary, but it's called the Ancient Bristlecone Pine Forest. And that area is said to have among the oldest living trees on Earth. I've heard the oldest, so I don't know. But there's claims that some of the living trees that are there are over 4,000 years old. We've not gone to the Bristlecone Pine Forest yet, but definitely on our list for future adventures. And so that was like an example of one thing that we learned about that's in the Eastern Sierras. There's so much in the Eastern Sierras. It's not something that you're going to soak up, I don't think, in like a single trip. This part of the state is a multi-trip experience. All right, so picked up some history of the area.
And it's
magnet for the trailer. And I found a few things that look like it'd be interesting to scope out in the future, and things we can't do today, but Bristlecone Forest, which has the oldest trees on Earth, apparently, about an hour and a half north of where we are, so that's going to be a future trip. But just some interesting history about this area on Eastern Sierra. Lots of interesting landscape. So more adventures in the future await.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so we looked at a picture of Mount Whitney, and we had thought the highest peak was the one that was closer to us, but it's actually behind this peak that's by the trees here. It's behind it and to my right over here. That is Mount Whitney.
We did see some very specific things when we were in Lone Pine.
And you might hear Alabama Hills and think you're in the South somewhere. These hills are actually adjacent to Lone Pine, California. This area is home to weird and strangely wonderful, multicolored orange rock formations. And it is a backdrop to Mount Whitney. And there is another peak next to it called Lone Pine Peak. So we decided, because we are RVers, that we were going to kind of drive out and scope the area out and see what it would be like to actually camp there. And since it is Alabama Hills, there's a lot of ups and downs to it. So you have the initial road that goes into it, which is gravel and dirt. And that goes in for a while, and you'll see split-offs from this road going off in different directions, and some of these roads can be very, very precarious if you have a longer rig.
So we're at the Alabama Hills, checking it out. On the one hand, just to see if it's a place we could do some future camping, but since we're up here, we know that there's this arch loop.
It has this magnificent famous loop,
Famous arch. Yeah. So there's a trail to get to it, so we're going to go check it out.
There's an arch, and this arch has a name. It's called the Mobius Arch, and there's a trailhead that loops around in this beautiful area. It's not long at all. It's very doable. When you arrive at Alabama Hills, you are going to turn onto what they call Movie Road. And they call that obviously because there are many, many film companies that come out. And that's your entry point for Alabama Hills. And then you drive for about 1.5 miles and you get to this Y intersection, and that's where you find a dirt parking lot. From there is the trailhead. And you hike from the parking lot to Mobius Arch. And I mean, you thought it was pretty easy. I thought it was pretty easy. You know, you have to walk it.
It's short enough. It's not challenging. Yeah. Anytime you can get out in nature and see some of these arch formations, you know, we don't have the breadth of arches that you have in a place like Arches National Park in Utah, but this is one of the arches that we have that it's a place that's easy to get to.
Yeah. And is probably one of the most photographed formations in that area. And it's pretty big. I mean, you can get inside it, so it's pretty big. So we walked onto the arch and we got some pictures, and luckily there was another couple there and they took pictures of both of us together.
Made it to the arch in the Alabama Hills. Short hike.
Yeah.
Easy hike.
Yeah. I think it was like, 1.5 miles? Pretty sure that's what it said.
Yeah. Well, it was 1.5 mile drive once you got on the dirt road from Movie Road. But in the walk here, I don't know, it didn't even feel like a half mile or so.
The walk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think?
Mile.
Yeah. Mild.
It was more.
A mile tops, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a mile
easy.
when you do the whole loop. I don't know.
And gorgeous.
Yeah. But wonderful views here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Glad we came.
Very glad we came.
Something new.
Yeah.
It's interesting walking through this landscape here. This feels, and it is, Southern California desert. It reminds me of the rocks around the Simi Valley Knolls area on the one hand. Parts of being here remind me of walking through Joshua Tree, but just to the west of us, and it's just a couple of miles up the road, you're at Mount Whitney in the Sierras. Completely different ecosystem up there. Forest, some of the oldest trees in the world, lakes, and just knowing how this ecosystem changes so dramatically in just such a short amount of space is pretty intriguing when you're here in the Alabama Hills.
It was a really fun walk, a beautiful area. I really, really enjoyed it there.
Yeah, this is a place, if you like walking in desert landscape, you can spend all day long just trouncing around the rocks and the features that are in this area.
And if you want to even be more adventurous, you can make your way to the other sites nearby, and that includes the Lathe Arch, the Eye of Alabama, Whitney Portal Arch, and there are several other geological marvels in the area. So it's just stunning. It's beautiful. You see Mount Whitney in the background. It's just absolutely stunning place.
Yeah, if you want to get away from crowds, this is a great place to go.
Oh, and if you like night photographs, it has very low light pollution. So that's a good place if you're into that kind of photography.
All right, Julie, I think if you listen really hard, close your ears and listen. Can't you just hear, and a mighty hi-ho silver away? Isn't that what he said? Something like that. It all happened here. But I think we also walked away saying, hey, this is a place that sure looks like it would be fun to come back to someday. So
yeah, absolutely. Just considering weather.
Right.
It gets very, very, very hot in the summer.
Yeah, so we're recording this in the summer, so this is not a time of the year where we would do this, but wintertime for sure, springtime, I could see that happening, so
yeah.
All right, we're in the Alabama Hills. Why are we here, Julie?
Well, we're doing two things. We are scoping out what would be most advantageous for us as far as our trailer, Ariane, goes. She's a 27-foot Airstream.
Want to see if it's possible to bring her up here someday, yeah?
Yeah, because you don't want to be stuck in a situation and you kind of get in trouble because you can't pull her out for some reason.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
kind of scoping it out. Secondly, we did a very, half-mile
Ish.
hike to the Arch that is here within Alabama Hills. Easy
Yeah.
walk.
Yeah.
Bring water though, because you're in the desert.
Yeah. We're here in the summer when it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
down below it's 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad we came here. I mean, we've been watching other people travel to the Alabama Hills and it's looked intriguing. And it's just happened to be about 4 or 5 miles from where we're camping in just south of the city of Lone Pine. We're kind of in the city of Lone Pine.
Yeah.
But it's here, so I thought we'd check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did too, because you can see lots and lots of pictures of stuff, but to actually be in the actual place is just, it's stunning. It's stunning.
Yeah.
Pictures don't give it justice.
Yeah. Beautiful landscape. I think it's confirmed for us that we can bring our trailer up here.
Yeah.
I was concerned that there was going to be a lot of dirt road driving to get to a spot where you could put the camper, and it looks like that doesn't have to be the case. So that was really encouraging.
Yeah.
And just on the other side of us, these incredible views of Mount Whitney, just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say that we will be back.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Alabama Hills.